What's dangerous is when the universe pick you and you put on the magic glasses. There's rules that go with them. You can never take them off. You never see things as they're supposed to be. You see things as they are. You can never force nobody else to wear them.
I think while I lie awake and contemplate tonight are wearing me out. Well, maybe tomorrow the world will wake and get it right, but I have my doubts, yeah. During the day, well, I design machines of war that scream through the sky. 'Cause I, for one, I like to go to bed free at night under these stars and stripes. And I have my doubts that we're coming out. Yes, I have my doubts, and I have my doubts that we'll make it back out. Yes, I have my doubts, but they'll wind you up and pull the cord until you're spun right out. And I don't understand. Roll the dice and raise the price to feed the machine's mouth. Call it the progress of man. And I have my doubt that we're coming out. Yes, I have my doubts. And I have my doubts that we'll make it back out. I have my doubts, so I'll drink my stuff and raise some hell and shoot my guns to the end of my time. You can have the booze and go to hell and take the guns, but I know they won't be mine. We're coming out. Yes, I have my doubts, and I have my doubts that we'll make it back up. Yes, I have my doubts. So we're all messed up and out of touch. Let's text someone who's in the other room. So don't wonder why we don't say hi or know anyone. I might as well move to the moon. So maybe I'm wrong. Well, I hope that I'm wrong. So maybe I'm wrong. Well, I hope that I'm wrong. Well, the things I think while I lie awake and contemplate tonight are wearing me out.
Good evening. I hope everyone's doing well. I've got some goodies for you tonight, actually. So I've got a little bit of some information I can give you on expired coffee, because that's important, right? And I wanted to first thank Marty with Blue Lightning TV. He runs a Photoshop channel. And earlier this evening, I had tossed something towards his way that I was trying to figure out how to do, and I was wondering, if he could make a video on it. I searched his videos first. I didn't just cold go in and say, hey, can you do a video on this? But I didn't know exactly what I should be searching for, so I used the only terms I knew. I didn't come up with anything that I was looking for, so I went ahead and I asked him about it. I gave him a font that has the effect on it, and within minutes he had replied with a video that he made 4 years ago, and even had the time code there, so I could know how to do that effect. And that was incredible. That was really incredible. So Marty with Blue Lightning TV. Most of my Photoshop skills, I have to attribute to that man, because it's his tutorial videos that teach me the different effects and the different tools within Photoshop. I mean, understand, I know very little when it comes to the world of Photoshop, because you could probably spend a lifetime just studying that one software program. And I don't just use Photoshop. I use Substance Painter. I use, I toy around a little bit with Adobe After Effects. I use Adobe Premiere for my video editing. So I love Adobe's products. They make great products. But anyway, coffee, because that's an important subject. So, as you know, I'm sure you all know by now, the cost of food, the prices are getting pretty stupid. And it's becoming ever more hard for us to be able to make do. It's just the way it is. I have to get more and more creative with meals and stuff like that. Well, I'm kind of a coffee snob. And although I would prefer to have Thomas coffee, which is out of our price range. I settle for Folgers, but I typically go with the 100% Colombian because that's what I like. And that's the closest thing to Thomas that I can get without spending the money for Thomas. If you haven't had Thomas coffee, you got to give it a try at least one time. Thomas Coffee, that's the name of it. It's made right in St. Louis near here, and the absolute best coffee I've ever had in my life. Anyway, so Folgers, we've had 2 cans, or whatever you want to call it, canisters, whatever, they're the plastic ones, of Folgers Classic, roast in the prepper closet there for like a long time. What do I mean by a long time? Well, the best buy date is March 14th, 2021. So we're knocking on 3 years past the best buy date. So I thought, let's give it a shot. Why not? You only live once, and this might be the end. So I pulled it out of the prepper closet, and this evening it's the coffee that I'm drinking, and I will have you know that although it's not my 100% Colombian that I prefer, I'm alive so far. So if I'm dead by tomorrow night's show, then don't do 3-year-old coffee. But I think I'll be okay. It certainly tastes fine, aside from it's not my Colombian. It does taste fine. There's no bad taste to it. It's fine. There's nothing wrong. When I took the top off, the plastic top, and of course it's got that seal. That seal was still like sunken in, as in there was still a vacuum in there and everything. And I just popped the seal off. I gave it the old smell test. And it kind of did have just a little bit of a different, but see, it's been so long since I've had regular, just not Colombian coffee. So it really was. I couldn't do a real super good comparison there. But I think that what I did sense, what I did pick up on, was a little bit of a plasticky kind of scent. However, I gave it a sniff test again before I made my coffee for the show. And I had Jen sniff test it as well. And it just smelled like regular coffee. So I just wanted to pass that on, that regular Folgers, just in the plastic container, 3 years past the best by date, and it's still definitely good enough to drink. So I figured I would go through the canisters of the classic in there, and just in case the alpaca lips happens, that gives me a little bit longer with the Colombian, which really bites, because I'm going to be real honest. The only backup that we have at this point, it's 3 cans, the 37 ounce, the bigger canisters of Folgers Colombian. That's it. We have slowly went through our coffee stocks just because we haven't been able to afford it. Sugar, the same way. When we did shopping, I normally get a 20-pound bag of sugar, and we just can't do it. Not with the cost of everything else inching up. I wound up getting a 10-pound bag of sugar this time, and that, I don't know that will actually quite make us through an entire month. That 10-pound bag of sugar, it might be close. I don't know. So it's definitely getting hard. There are even a couple of items that I couldn't even get because just didn't have the money for it. I couldn't get my real lemon to have my lemonade, which really sucks because I have to side with Steve there. I think it does help with soreness. I think it does a real good job to help with soreness. And I normally have been getting burritos, right? Just it's the cheapest, crappiest, if you will, meal that we eat is the frozen burritos, and couldn't even do that. So in fact, I'm gonna have to get a little bit more creative this month with what we do have in order to make it stretch. So crazy stuff. But the main thing is that I want to let you know about that coffee, because that to me is important, and I'm sure there's got to be other folks out there that's got just regular coffee sitting on their shelf that they're putting back for SHTF, and probably a lot of people wondering if it's going to be okay or not. So 3 years past the best by date, it's still drinkable, it's still fine. So there you have it. Yeah, I do recommend, if you can, definitely get you some unroasted green coffee beans if you can afford to do it. As long as you got a coffee grinder and a way to roast the coffee. Otherwise, you could just get regular, already roasted coffee beans. I'm sure that'll store a little bit longer than the regular, ground coffee. But 3 years out of date on just regular coffee like you would buy it, I can't complain. And that's in the plastic containers, so cannot complain. Wanted to pass that on. I thought that was important. Let's see. I think that covers everything outside of the news. Trying to think here. I think so. I do have, what do I have here? 7 articles up to talk to you about. 4 of them, well, actually 4 of them deal with Russia. Well, directly. And, 2 more kind of deal with Russia. And then the last one I've got is actually about MH370, if you remember that. That was an airplane that went down that they supposedly never found. And, there's different stories about what possibly happened to it or whether or not they even know what happened to it. I'm not ready to throw my hat in the ring yet as to my opinion on it. I've heard a lot of different stories. I've watched documentaries on it. And it's really suspect. I know that much. It's really suspect. And the thing I do know that frustrates me is the fact, not the assumption, the fact that the U.S. government knows what happened to that plane. Maybe not necessarily why it went down, why it disappeared, but as far as details as to where it went down, where it disappeared, the U.S. government has that information. They had operations going on in the area, and they most certainly had radar in the area. So they know. I kind of take that as a hint, to be honest, as to the possible reason why it went down, if the U.S. government is so tight-lipped about any information involving it. So, yeah, you put the two together, military operations in the area, and I think it was just drills or whatever, but military drills in the area, plane goes down, countries hush-hush about it. I can draw some connections from dot to dot on that, but not going to throw my hat in the ring quite yet. Let me have a sip here. It's good, other than it's not my Colombian, and I'm picky. All right. Let's, oh, and Blue has gotten her bananas. Now, that we didn't skimp out on, because we have to live with that thing, and it wouldn't be much living if she doesn't have her bananas. Right? No, I didn't. Apparently, I got huffed. Most awesome dog ever. Anyway, let's get on with some news. We'll get through it and get the heck out of here, because it's like Sunday, it's our Monday. Polish farmers shut down country's border with Ukraine. Like, we're not talking about partially. They shut that thing down. It says here, protesting Polish farmers blockaded all 6 border crossings to Ukraine on Sunday, according to Kiev's border security agency. The move comes after months of protests by Poland's agricultural workers against cheap Ukrainian imports threatening their livelihoods. As of this morning, more than 2,400 cargo vehicles are waiting in queues at all 6 crossing points, State Border Guard Service spokesman Andrei Demchenko told Ukraine's European Pravda news site. Not a single truck is crossing the border towards Poland because they are not allowed through, Demchenko said, adding that cars, vans, and buses are being allowed to pass as normal. Polish farmers have been blockading the border since November in protest of an EU rule allowing Ukrainian farmers to sell their grain in the bloc without paying tariffs or abiding by Brussels' stringent regulations. Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk said earlier this week that Warsaw was in talks with Kiev about temporarily shutting the border, although the Ukrainian side denied his claim. Polish authorities want to help Ukraine, but we can't allow this help to bring very negative effects to our citizens. We're constantly looking for a solution that will protect the Polish market from being flooded with clearly cheaper Ukrainian agricultural products, Tusk said on Wednesday. Now let me tell you something else about Poland's laws. Poland, and as far as I know, these are still in place. Poland has laws against like the GMOs and stuff like that. And they don't want none of that nonsense in their country. And obviously, the Ukrainian grain does have a lot of GMO grain. It does have a lot of the stuff that several countries around the world will not allow into their nation. I wish the United States would learn from that. But we're one of the countries, unfortunately, that pushes heavily for it. I don't know. There's no real good answer here. I do think that that also is included in their concerns, although they're not bringing a lot of attention to that in the media. That is what it is. They're pretty much putting it all on the effect that it would have on the economy. But I think it's more than just the economy. I don't think that they want that crap in their country. And I have to hand it to Poland for that. Any country that is against all this GMO stuff, I'm definitely in support of that. So anyway, Another drink of coffee. There's been quite a bit of talk about this leaked conversation, if you will, with Germany that talked about attacking the Crimean Bridge. And I've actually got 2 articles that directly talk about that particular incident. This one here, leaked Crimean Bridge attack recording could deepen rift in NATO, says Wall Street Journal. Goes on to say a leaked recording outlining the German military's alleged plans to help Ukraine use long-range missiles to attack the Crimean Bridge could cause a rift between Berlin and its NATO allies, the Wall Street Journal reported on Saturday. On Friday, RT editor-in-chief Margarita Simonyan, and I'm sure I'm probably getting that wrong, released a Russian-language transcript of what was claimed to be a conversation between several high-ranking Luftwaffe officers in which they discussed the operational and targeting details of Taurus long-range missiles, which Germany is currently debating whether to send to Ukraine, as though the delivery had already been agreed upon. The officials spoke out about how to maintain plausible deniability if Ukraine used the weapons to strike the strategically important Crimean Bridge. The German Defense Ministry has confirmed that the conversation had indeed been intercepted, with an investigation into the matter underway. Wall Street Journal reported, citing German officials, that the conversation is authentic, adding that the meeting took place on a non-encrypted online platform, WebEx, with one officer reportedly calling from a hotel room in Singapore, according to the article. German officials often use WebEx for sensitive conversations, with one Wall Street Journal source saying the leak should be a wake-up call for Berlin. Apart from the use of Taurus missiles, German officials also allegedly mentioned the presence of foreign military personnel in Ukraine deployed to help Kiev operate Western-supplied weapons. Russian officials have said the presence of Western service members in Ukraine is no secret. The Wall Street Journal described the recording as a propaganda win for the Kremlin, noting that it could strain relations between Germany and its NATO allies. It also makes the eventual delivery of Taurus missiles to Ukraine less likely, the paper added. The German daily Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung, and I'm sure I got that way wrong, reported on Sunday, citing sources that German Chancellor Olaf Scholz remains opposed to sending Taurus missiles to Kiev, warning it could further escalate the conflict. Now, here's the thing. They got caught red-handed. And it doesn't matter how you stack it. It doesn't matter how you look at it. They got caught. And there's one thing I've noticed about these nations and their so-called leaders. They won't own up to anything anymore. In fact, anything that they're called out on, they blame on somebody else. And it's happening with about every Western nation that even speaks up. It's absolutely insane. Hang on. By the way, is that a Rafale? Maybe? Possibly? That plane there? I don't know. Kind of looks like one, but I'm not really seeing the canard. Oh, now I do. Yep, there's a canard. Yep, that's a Rafale. Awesome. For those that don't know, my youngest son was named after that aircraft. His name is Rafale. Alright. So Germany blames leak on Russian information war. German Defense Minister Boris Pistorius has tried to sidestep controversy over an audio recording of senior Bundeswehr officers. I know I'm getting these names wrong, these pronunciations wrong. talking about a possible attack on the Crimean Bridge, saying a leak of the tape stemmed from Russia's information war against the West. Now, it didn't stem from the interception of an actual conversation. It's apparently from the information war. Speaking at a press briefing on Sunday in Berlin, Pistorius focused on the source of the leak rather than the substance of the conversation, blaming the incident on Russian President Vladimir Putin. It is part of an information war that Putin is waging, the defense chief said. There's absolutely no doubt about that. It's a hybrid attack aimed at disinformation. Wait, full stop, hold up. Is it disinformation? No. The information is true. It's correct. It happened. The conversation happened. This is a result of a nation spying on another nation, which is something that nations commonly do. I'm at a loss. I really, truly am at a loss here. Pistorius added that the leak aimed to create division within Germany over the Russia-Ukraine conflict. Berlin, well, actually, you did that to yourself, homie. Berlin is one of Kiev's largest foreign backers through Chancellor Olaf Scholz and has been reluctant to send Taurus long-range missiles to Ukraine on concern that such weaponry could trigger a direct conflict between Germany and Russia. It is about division, Pistorius said. It is about undermining our resolve, he added. Accordingly, we should react in particularly level-headed manner, but no less resolutely. The leaked audio released by RT editor-in-chief Margarita Simonyan on Friday from a conversation between 4 German Air Force officers, including the Bundeswehr branch's commander, Lieutenant General Ingo Gerhardt. The officers discussed operational and targeting details for the Taurus missiles that might be sent to Ukraine, including their possible use against the Crimean Bridge. They also talked about ways to maintain plausible deniability of German involvement in such an attack to avoid sparking a wider conflict. Well, I would say it's probably a little too late for that now. I mean, I'm not picking any sides on any of this because, well, I can't. The father wouldn't approve that. But it just, I will always side with honesty. And I get that in war you can't just put all your cards on the table. You can't just be honest or, but when you're caught red-handed, you could at least own up to it. At least you could own up to it. So this is clearly escalating. This entire situation is escalating. And, I mean, I am starting to get concerned on the nuclear front, to be honest. I don't know. And when I say that, I'm not necessarily saying that, we'll necessarily have warheads on our foreheads over here. But I do think that we're edging closer and closer to nuclear weapons being used. And pretty likely that they could be used on countries like Germany. They could be used on countries like France because of Macron's idiocy. I don't know. I think that Russia and Ukraine should have been allowed to sit down at the negotiation table a long time ago. But the U.S. and other NATO members wouldn't have it. Biden's got buddies to protect, I guess, deals to protect, investments. So, got an article here. Germany preparing for war with Russia, says Medvedev. This goes on to say a recently leaked recording of senior German officers discussing a potential attack on the Crimean Bridge leaves no doubt that Berlin is preparing for a military conflict with Moscow, the former Russian president Dmitry Medvedev warned on his Telegram channel on Sunday. Medvedev, who is currently deputy head of the Russian Security Council, was commenting on audio that surfaced earlier this week. The story was broken on Friday by RT editor-in-chief. We already talked about this. Says the 38-minute-long recording, reportedly from February 19, contained a conversation between 4 officers of the German Air Force we went all through this. Let me see if there's any information that we didn't cover. On Sunday, Medvedev assumed that Berlin would now try to claim it had known nothing of the military discussions taking place. He also stated that the German authorities could call the leaked conversation a purely hypothetical one and say that the military was obsessed with playing mock battles. Well, they kind of are, but any attempts to present the Bundeswehr officers' conversation as just a game with missiles and tanks would be a malicious lie, the former president warned. Germany is preparing for a war with Russia, and they pretty much actually directly have said that. I don't think you have to stretch too far on that one. Medvedev also said the position of Scholz's cabinet might eventually be irrelevant when it comes to the standoff between Moscow and Berlin. History knows many examples when the military were capable of taking decisions for their civilian superiors about starting a war or just instigating conflict, he added. He particularly pointed to a hypothetical provocation scenario in which the German military might convince Scholz that Russian forces had launched a missile at Berlin, which had been intercepted. Various German officials have recently raised the issue of a potential war with Russia. Earlier on Sunday, the nation's health minister, Karl Lauterbach, said that Germany should improve its health care system for it to be able to swiftly respond to major disasters like a military conflict. They've been going on and on in many ways about preparing for military conflict, so this isn't the beginning of it. Last month, German General Carsten Breuer called for a change in mentality in society, insisting the nation needed to prepare for a potential war with Russia in 5 years. German Defense Minister Boris Pistorius said last November that the country must become war-capable and stated again in January that Berlin and all of its NATO allies should arm themselves more actively to be able to wage a war that is forced upon us. So, I do think that this is inching closer and closer. It's kind of been one of those things as I've been watching things play out. Like I've mentioned before, it kind of feels bipolar-ish, because one moment it seems like, okay, game on. The next moment it seems like, maybe not, game off. Now we're in a moment that it seems a little more like game on. And, as I'm looking at this, France and Germany are really, really wanting to get into conflict with Russia, from what I'm seeing. Now, the United States, I'm sure that they do, especially at this current time. But they haven't been pushing, at least not overtly pushing like Germany and France are. Now, the other NATO members, I don't know that NATO should necessarily feel like they can rely on them if this does break out in kinetic warfare between some of the NATO nations and Russia. Because there have been several countries that have come forward and said, So we'll see. We'll see how this plays out. I know I wouldn't rely on NATO at this point in time. Because there's several countries that have made it clear that they don't want involved in a war with Russia. However, Israel is supposed to be getting more aggressive with Russia. This article here says an Israeli lawmaker suggested that his government will take a harder line against Russia by boosting its support for Ukraine because it sees Moscow as somehow involved in the Hamas war against West Jerusalem. How? I don't know, but Israel will take a more aggressive stance against Russia, MP Amir Wheatman told U.S. media outlet Business Insider in an article published on Saturday. He added that amid its current battle with Hamas, his government doesn't have munitions to spare, but if the war in Gaza ends before the conflict in Ukraine, Israeli weapons would find their way to Kiev. Whiteman made his comments in response to plans by Israel, revealed on Wednesday at the UN, to provide an early warning system to help Kiev counter Russian airstrikes and drone attacks. The announcement by Gilad Erdan, Israel's permanent representative to the UN, did not come out of the blue, the lawmakers said. Russia is heavily involved in what is happening in Israel, Wheatman claimed, referring to the war with Hamas, which was triggered by surprise raids. We've been through that a million times. Wheatman, who heads the libertarian faction of Israel's ruling Likud Party, was restrained during an RT interview in October. Russia is supporting Nazi people who want to commit genocide on us, and Russia will pay the price, he said. The MP added, "We will make sure that Ukraine wins. We will make sure that you pay the price for what you have done." Now, this is a statement that I have to counter, because Russia is not the Nazis in this. And in fact, it's very clear who has the Nazi leanings between Russia and Ukraine, and it's not Russia. It is not Russia. I'm not picking a side. I'm just reporting the facts. The Ukrainian leadership are most certainly sympathetic to the Nazi cause. Business Insider said Israel may have already torched its relationship with Russia by pledging to supply an early warning system to Ukraine. The system is similar to Israel's Tzvizba Atom Radar, which quickly detects rocket launches and broadcasts alerts to endangered areas so civilians can take shelter. After 2 years of walking a diplomatic tightrope over the Ukraine crisis, sending only humanitarian supplies to avoid provoking Russia, the decision to provide Kiev a radar system signals a major about-turn in Israeli foreign policy, Business Insider said. Israel will likely send specialist soldiers to help Ukrainians set up the system, the outlet noted. Speaking at the UN on Wednesday, Erdogan referred to the Ukrainians as allies and friends in need. He claimed that Israel has stood in solidarity with Ukraine since the conflict escalated in February 2022. This is the moral thing to do, especially as a country that knows exactly how it feels to be aggressively invaded. Yeah. And I'm not arguing about whether or not Israel was aggressively invaded. Obviously, they were. But and to be honest, what happened in Israel was a long time coming too, but what's going on in Ukraine has been a really long time coming. And again, while I'm not being sympathetic with one side or the other, or standing behind one side or the other, Putin did a good job of laying out why they did what they did. And I think he was pretty honest when he laid it out. At the same time, they were agreements that clearly were not being followed, were not being respected. And that's not on Russia's backs. That's simply not on Russia's backs. I mean, just the way it is. I have a couple of vapes here. Pink Starburst is what I'm vaping on. Good stuff. All right. Israel blames Palestinians for Gaza aid convoy deaths. So, I think I spoke a little bit about this on, Thursday night, if I'm not mistaken. Most of the Palestinians killed when troops opened fire at a crowd massed near an aid convoy in the Gaza Strip died as a result of a stampede, not from gunshots, the Israel Defense Forces has claimed. Now, I mentioned I'd seen some video from that, and while can't deny that there were probably people that got trampled, there was a lot of people that fell from live fire. Plain and simple. Plain and simple. The IDF has concluded an initial review of the unfortunate incident where Gazan civilians were trampled to death and injured as they charged to the aid convoy, military spokesman Daniel Hagari said on Sunday in a statement. Our initial review has confirmed that no strike was carried out by the IDF toward the aid convoy. See, that is a flat-out lie. The statement came amid international outcry over the deaths of more than 100 people and the wounding of 750 others as hungry civilians waited to receive food aid in the besieged Palestinian enclave on Thursday. Gaza health authorities accused Israeli troops of an unprovoked attack on civilians, and UN investigators reported a large number of gunshot wounds. Now, how do you get gunshot wounds from being trampled? I mean, the last I checked, trampling might leave, shoe tread on your forehead, but it's not going to leave bullets in your body. Just saying. Just a little observation. Hagari essentially reiterated the claims he made before the IDF investigation, saying troops were facilitating an aid delivery and fired warning shots as civilians charged toward the humanitarian convoy at the side of the trucks. The majority of the Palestinians were killed or injured as a result of the stampede, he said, and that is not true. After firing warning shots to disperse the crowd, IDF soldiers started retreating, the spokesman claimed. At that point, he added, several looters approached our forces and posed an immediate threat to them, according to the initial review. The soldiers responded towards several individuals. In other words, they opened fire. Thursday's incident will be further investigated by Israel's, quote-unquote, independent fact-finding and assessment mechanism. You gotta love it, right? Investigating themselves to help prevent such tragedies in the future, Hagari said. Well, here's a thought. Stop killing them. I mean, stop killing them. The best way to stop killing them is to stop killing them. It's not really confusing logic, man. Just stop killing them. They got everybody into the southern part of Gaza. Now it's like shooting fish in a barrel. That's exactly what they wanted. They want to totally eradicate the Palestinians. This isn't about getting security under control. This is about an extermination. This is genocide. I said it from the beginning. It's continuing to play out that way. And why anybody at this point believes a word that comes out of the IDF's mouths is beyond me. Because time and time again, the evidence. There's only one time that I know of that I can point out and said, yeah, Hamas lied through their teeth. And that was the attack on that hospital. The quote-unquote attack on that hospital. Now, Hamas, without a doubt, was lying through their teeth about that attack. But that is the only incident that I can point out and say that, the Palestinians lied. Hamas lied. And I don't trust much of anything from Hamas. But I do trust a little more from the NGOs that are there. I trust a little bit more from, and I hate to say it, but from the UN. And again, I hold that loosely, but I let the evidence speak for itself. I saw a video of what happened. Multiple vantage points. They opened fire on those people. Now, was there any individuals coming at them in a threatening manner? I don't know. I wasn't able to see that. But it's one thing if you have some individuals approaching you in an aggressive manner. It's another thing when you just open up on a crowd of people like they did. Can't tell me that was injuries sustained and deaths sustained from a stampede. I saw video. you know, it's not about standing up for one side, not about cutting down the other. It's about right or wrong. And if nobody can understand my stance or the importance of why I choose right over wrong, I don't know what to tell you. The Father is what I'm worried about. I'm not worried about what man thinks of me. Not even in the most small manner. So anyway, I mentioned this. Search for the missing MH370 to resume. I mean, you would have thought that they would have been a little more interested in wrapping up what really happened with that a long time ago. But, again, military drills in the area. We don't know what happened. Malaysian Transport Minister Anthony Loke has promised that the search for the remains of Malaysian Airlines Flight 370 will resume as soon as possible. The Boeing 777 disappeared from radar screens in 2014 and is presumed to have crashed in the southern Indian Ocean. Speaking at a now I can't think of how to pronounce that word. Commemoration, sorry. Speaking at a commemoration event in Kuala Lumpur on Sunday, Loke told the relatives of 239 passengers and crew who vanished that the Malaysian government remains committed to finding this plane. As I stand before you and make this promise, I will do everything possible to gain evidence to sign a new contract with Ocean Infinity for the search to resume as soon as possible, Loke said, according to the Malay Mail. Ocean Infinity is a Texas-based marine robotics firm that scoured the Indian Ocean for traces of the jet in 2018. Nothing was found and the mission was called off after 6 months. Ocean Infinity CEO Oliver Plunkett announced last year that the company had found new evidence pointing to a potential crash site and said that he had petitioned the Malaysian government for permission to carry out a fresh search. Loke said on Sunday that he had instructed officials to meet with Ocean Infinity to discuss a no-find, no-fee proposal by the company. Even though it is no fine, no fee, we anticipate that if we start going into a contract with Ocean Infinity, we hope that the plane is found, he said. MH370 was en route with Kuala Lumpur to Beijing on March 8, 2014, when it lost contact with the air traffic control over the South China Sea. The plane disappeared from a secondary radar screens which displayed an aircraft's location and transponder data, but was tracked by the Malaysian military's primary radar for another hour, which showed it banking sharply to the west and flying back over the Malay Peninsula toward the Andaman Sea. As MH370 continued flying for another 6 hours, its disabled satellite data unit made repeated attempts to log on to a telecommunications network operated by British firm Inmarsat. A team of international investigators led by the Australian Transport Safety Bureau could deduce the plane's rough flight path from the time taken for these signals to travel from plane to satellite, and concluded that it more likely than flew into the southern Indian Ocean until it ran out of fuel. Malaysian police later found that the plane's captain, Zahari Ahmad Shah, had practiced flying a Boeing 777 deep into the Indian Ocean on a simulator before the disappearance. Former Australian Prime Minister Tony Abbott told Sky News in 2020 that from very, very, very early on, the Malaysian government thought it was murder-suicide by the pilot. In the years since the disappearance of MH370, suspected debris from the jet has washed ashore in South Africa, Mozambique, Mauritius, and the French territory of Reunion. And I know I got some of those wrong. So, this stuff, this craziness with the suicide by pilot does happen. I just recently watched a documentary about air disasters, and it covered all kinds of different air disasters, but there was one in particular I guess the 737 has had a lot of issues, not starting with just the MAX. But, howdy, Steve. So they had an issue with the 737, and I think they called it a rudder over, a hard rudder over, or something like that, rudder hard over. It's basically where the rudder of the aircraft would just instantly just kick to one side and stay there. And if the pilot wasn't really on top of their game, it would take you straight into the ground. And not one but two 737s crashed as a result from this happening. Well, then there was another crash involving a 737, and that was more or less their initial thought behind what had happened. And so they're doing their investigation, and where it went down, it was hard to retrieve the aircraft. And so, of course, they needed the flight recorder data, both the cockpit voice recorder as well as the data recorder. And so while they were doing their investigation, before they found the black boxes, which you probably know them by, they looked for the particular part that involved the rudder, and they wanted to inspect that. They found that part, they inspected that part, and didn't see anything wrong with it. They didn't find anything wrong with it. And on the simulator, they had a simulator that they were trying to recreate the event with, and it didn't work out very well as far as recreating the event. They could not make that plane go down the way the aircraft went down on radar. They just couldn't do it. The aircraft on radar went down at a much steeper angle much quicker than anything they could get the simulator to do. So at some point, they finally did come across the data recorders and the cockpit voice recorder. And here was the interesting thing. They were shut off. That was the other thing. They were shut off, it would seem like. And one of the data recorders, I think it was the cockpit voice recorder, actually shut off like 6 minutes sooner than the flight data recorder, which is odd because both of the black boxes are in the same place in the aircraft. They're near the tail of the aircraft. And so they were having a hard time putting together how these two different boxes located right next to one another would have quit at such different times. Well, they didn't. They had, at least up to a certain point, the audio from the the cockpit voice recorder. And I mean, these folks, I really have to hand it to them for as thorough as they are when they go through these. So they had a mock aircraft that they were doing different stuff. They were trying to overload those circuits and stuff to see what it would take to kick the breaker out and all of that. And in the process of them doing that, they noticed that it was very obvious when that breaker kicked out, and that there was a delay from the time that the breaker kicked out before the actual shutdown of the cockpit voice recorder, and you could actually audibly hear the breaker kick out. They went back to the recording from the aircraft. They couldn't hear it. They couldn't hear that the breaker kicked out. So that threw out the idea that something happened, the circuit got overloaded, it kicked out the breaker. And so when it all came together in the end, the only thing that they could deduce is that the pilot intentionally put that plane into the ground. And it's really sad, but can't remember, Air Disasters or something like that. It was on Amazon Prime, was the where the documentary is. There's a bunch of them about air disasters. There's one about military air disasters. There's one about civilian. So, good stuff, good stuff. Hmm? Right on. Right on. Yeah, too bad the trucker strike didn't do anything. Yeah, that was a really popular story. Just too bad that nothing happened with it. Honestly, I didn't expect it to. So, anywho, oh, I got another article up there. Let me, give me a break. Biden voters say he's too old, but back him anyway, says a poll. Uh-huh. Where's the 100 nursing home people that you threatened their life to? Oh, wait, maybe that. You know. Oh, man. All right. Let me read through the headlines here and then jimmy out the back door because I'm ready to go to bed. It's a nice warm day. In fact, I'm probably going to have to kick the air on for a little bit just to cool things off in the house here. Otherwise, there's no way we'll get to sleep. I don't even know what the low is supposed to be. Hang on. For some reason, it's got to be relatively cool for me to sleep. I never used to be that way. In fact, just the opposite. I couldn't go to sleep if it was cool. Oh, yikes. Yeah. Yup. So I probably won't be turning the heaters on tonight. Wait. That's Monday. Wait, what's it supposed to get like down to tonight? Yeah. Nope. Not probably going to be turning the heat on tonight. I will turn the air on, though. So, that works. I'm truly good with that. Tomorrow is supposed to get up to 79 degrees. I am so good with that. So good with that. We got the window open now, so it's been open much of the day. Alright, let's do some headlines so I can kick that AC on and we can get to bed. Pope labels gender ideology ugliest danger. And believe it or not, I agree with Pope. Late Crimean bridge attack recording could deepen rift in NATO. Oh, I actually read that article. Italy to withdraw its air defense system from fellow NATO state. Destroyed Ukrainian Abrams tank labeled empty tin can. White people barred from London theater. So keep that in mind when you're making your travel plans. Trump is dangerous for women, says Joe Biden. West political games stalling aid to Ukraine, says Zelensky. Musk questions why NATO still exists. Hey, I've been asking that question for a couple of decades now. Serbia to rerun election in Belgrade. Pakistan elects prime minister. Man vasectomized by mistake. Yeah, so he was supposed to go in and get his gallbladder removed. Not the ball ladder, the gallbladder. So, instead of getting the gallbladder removed, they removed his ball ladder, if you will. And he could... So, it is really sad, though, because the man was hoping to have a girl. And, he had 2 sons, apparently with a different woman. He had remarried, and he was hoping to try one more time for a daughter. And now that's not possible. Ivanka Trump, Bill Gates, among other guests at pre-wedding for son of Asia's richest man in India. I saw pictures of Zuckerberg was there, and just crazy. Ugly. You got to see this. You got to see this. There. You talk about ugly. I mean, I'm talking about the clothes. I know the people are ugly too, but I mean the clothes specifically. I wouldn't want to pull a petal off of that flower. No, thank you. And what the hell is up with dragonflies on your suit, dude? They need to, like, stop doing so much cocaine. That's the only thing I can think. Anyway. COVID causes drop in IQ, says a study. You think? Germany preparing for war with... Oh, I covered that one. World Youth Festival is opportunity to innovate together, says UN Youth MP. The later the negotiations, the worse the result for Ukraine, says Hungary. I would agree. Been saying that. U.S. voters look more favorably on Trump's presidency, says a poll. You think? Covered that earlier. Google co-founder admits to AI failure. Second Abrams tank and mine-clearing vehicle destroyed in Ukraine conflict, says media. Let's see. Covered that. And that. Russian soldier thanks Biden for sending Abrams tanks to Ukraine. See, because they get bonuses. If they take out, like, armor, if they take out, like, planes, they get bonuses, right? So that's why he's thanking Biden for his bonus. Israel blames Palestinians for... Oh, I covered that. And that. Northern Lights deliver spectacular show over Russia. Ukraine may get bodies of soldiers it killed in plane attack, says Russian official. And Biden voters say he's too old, but they back him anyway. I mentioned that a moment ago. I don't believe it, but whatever. Anyway, that's the nonsense thus far. And I reckon tomorrow night we'll have a whole new round of nonsense to bring you. We'll see. Anyway, I am going to get out of here. I am tired. And I got up early this morning. I think I woke up like 4. And then I tried to get back to sleep. Couldn't do it. And then it was like after 5. I may have dozed off for a little bit. But it wasn't long after 5. I went ahead and said hell with it and got up. Because I'm not going to sit there and just toss and turn and keep her up. So... it is what it is. Anyway, I am out of here. God willing, I'll be back tomorrow with the more nonsense, and we'll go from there. So, I appreciate y'all coming. Hope to see you tomorrow night. As always, God bless you. We love you. Be one with your spirit, and shalom.